who's represented minorities in Jacksonville since 2001. He was the civil rights attorney for Jordan Davis's family and their journey for justice. Jordan Davis was a 17-year-old from Jacksonville who was shot and killed while at a gas station with his friends. Mr. Phillips is here to represent the Davis family.
Thank you. I love y'all. I'm a little different speed than the last guy. So, Pandora was curious. Zeus sent her down with a dowry. Who knows what a dowry is? Zeus sent her down with a present and said, look, you're going to open this on your wedding day. And it wasn't a box because they didn't have boxes back then. It was an urn, sealed urn. And kind of like the story of Adam and Eve, Pandora opened that box, that urn, and misery and hate and anger flew out. Sound familiar? We got Pandora's box. It's the story of guns in America. It's the story of politics in America. Even before the Second Amendment, I'm going to take you back. Bear with me, students. I'm going to give a quick history lesson. Even before the Second Amendment, before this country was founded, I'm going to take you to 1764. It's the earliest school massacre I could find on this continent. A headmaster by the name of Enoch Brown had his Bible in hand and was teaching his students. And some original occupants of this country who they had been warring with because they wanted their land came in, killed headmaster or teacher Enoch Brown, and massacred several children. I don't tell that story to compare it to what we're dealing with now, although, you know, we've had a hockey stick of these incidents lately. I tell you to tell you what happened in Pennsylvania that day, before we was even a state, is what's going on right now. So they reenacted the Scalp Act after that incident. And so even children as little as 10, if they were Native American, had a bounty on their head. We know that story from slavery too. It sold guns. Back in the day, it sold axes. It sold weapons. So 250 years of violence, and it's getting worse. I have a question, and it's a pretty simple question. Anybody, is the answer to guns more guns?
No! Never.
That's right. Is the answer to violence more violence?
No!
Dr. King told us that.
Choose love.
Choose love. Speaking of that, is Keegan Roberts' daughter still here?
Yes, they just walked out.
Bring her up if she's still here. Is she like real close? Whenever she can, Sissy, if you could bring her up for a second, please. So 1789, we know about the Second Amendment, well-regulated militia. I've seen some great signs about it. We're jumping to today with all the problems we have. This is a complex problem. Uncontrolled lobbying, PAC money, bought legislators, mental health funding, giving veterans no treatment when they come back from war, but giving them preferential place in law enforcement. We've got a host of problems. Does that mean we don't try? 300 million guns in the United States, one for just about every man, woman, and child. There's your Pandora's box, ladies and gentlemen. Is the answer to guns more guns? Some examples of where my generation has gone wrong. We're putting this into the hands of the next generation right here, right now. In 1996, Congress stopped the CDC from looking at gun deaths and coming up with honest statistics. Come on up here. I got into a debate on Facebook this morning with somebody that asked why I do this.
Say hi, Johnny.
I want you to look at this little girl. This is Keegan Roberts' daughter. Say hi.
Say hi.
Say hi. She's shy. I was like that a few years ago. So this is Keegan Roberts' family. This is Keegan Roberts' daughter. He was shot and killed over Stand Your Ground. Well, what they say was Stand Your Ground. He was shot and killed by his neighbor who crossed the street and killed him over litter and hate. Thank you. That little girl is why I do this. Brandon Green's mother's out there. That's why I do this. Jordan Davis's dad is out of the country. His mom's in D.C. She's why I do this. So CDC stopped. Stand Your Ground originally was marketed as stopping people when their hurricanes were coming in, or little old grandmothers who were going to get mugged on the way to their car. They needed something to protect themselves. Keegan Roberts shows that's not how that's being used. In Iowa, get this, it's not going to surprise this crowd. In Iowa, a legally blind man was given a concealed weapons permit. The same laws on the books that would protect that same person in Georgia. And there's reciprocity all over this country. Legally blind. He can't drive. He can carry a gun around. So loose are the laws, so many are the guns that our fine JSO tweets out every night at 9 o'clock. Is your car locked? We don't want your glove box or gun box to be pilfered because we have that many guns in this country. An 18-year-old with erratic behavior, we know what they can do. So that brings me briefly, and I know it's getting hot, so just bear with me. That brings me to how I encountered Jordan Davis and Jordan Davis's family. I'm a father. My wife Angela is right over there. God bless you. Thank you, dear, for following us, being with us through this. So I have 3 boys, and my mother said to me, "You'll never know love until you have your own child." And seeing all these children, seeing all these young adults shows a lot of love here. A lot of time been spent raising these kids is their own, and no gun should take that away. So Jordan Davis, most of you know the story. A couple teenagers, 4 teenagers, sitting listening to loud music at a convenience store. Michael Dunn rolls up, takes some exception to it. The last words, and this is an independent witness, the last words Michael Dunn said to Jordan Davis, "You're not going to talk to me like that." That was all they needed to convict him. They finally did. "You're not going to talk to me like that." He was so armed to the teeth with rage and hate and racism, all of those things, but also with a handgun ready to go. And so, I was challenged this morning about whether I need to be here to protect, am I going to address all of the shootings? And I'm going to address them all. You better believe I'm fighting for every single child out there, however I can. If it's on the north side, if it's in Chicago, if wherever he or she is, I am here to protect them, and I know all of you are as well. And it's not going to be easy. It is not going to be simple. I've walked all over this country and even internationally with the parents of Jordan Davis to just try to get reasonable change, just reasonable law enforcement, things that 90% of us are going to agree with. We'd love the extra 10%, but we'll settle for anything we can agree with, and nobody here is asking for anything, out of the ordinary, unreasonable to save lives. So I've been, over the last 5 years, to more funerals of young men and boys that I never got to know. I've given a TED Talk where I wore, I'm going to spoil it for you if you haven't seen it, where I wore a bulletproof jacket, and I explained, why do civil rights lawyers need bulletproof jackets? While I appreciate JSO keeping us safe, more than I can imagine, why are we at a peace rally where we have to be protected by officers on rooftops? But I appreciate it. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. They are out there sacrificing every single day for us. So as I finish up, let me explain. I talked about funerals. Jordan Davis, a moment from the first time I really got to know Jordan Davis. And so I was asked to attend his funeral, and here I am, 6'3", white guy from Alabama, and kind of didn't at that time really know my place in life, in peace. And so I'm sitting here just sobbing uncontrollably at this young man's funeral in Atlanta. And the preacher moved me as much as I've been moved since then. I'm going to give him full credit because I'm about to borrow his words. But he talked about children on an escalator. And every parent kind of knows that moment that the kids are kind of trying the escalator and they're not quite sure about it. And some of the kids think the escalator is going to eat them. They just don't know. And the pastor said and told the story about his boy and said, keep on moving. Just keep on moving. You're going to be safe. Just keep on moving. And throughout that child's life, he said, keep on moving. Keep on moving. And so fast forward through civil trials and criminal trials and meetings with Angela Corey and a host of other things, we kept on moving. And the escalator in this process, it doesn't end. We're going to try. We're going to try to make some successes. We're going to try to keep it going as if the edge could eat us at any point. But we're going to keep on moving. And so when I woke up during the hardest parts of that, walking with that family, walking and seeing what that family went through, a loss that I could never describe because I have never been through it. A loss that Sissy's going through right now. A loss that Brandon Green's mother just went through. A loss, you're right, absolutely. Maurice Hobbs, I still owe you guys a phone call. And so for an instant on some mornings, I froze up and I said, I don't know how John Phillips, I don't know how this guy can help anymore. I don't know what I can do. And I remembered that pastor saying, and I remembered where Lucy McBath was at that probable instant. She was a flight attendant, and so she was probably 30,000 feet up in the sky, serving people, helping people, telling people about Jordan, preparing other parents and parenting other parents and parenting other kids through her loss. She kept on moving. And now she's in D.C., now she's running for office. I couldn't be more proud of Lucy McBath and Ron Davis. So, the march, guys and gals, does not end at the finish line today. I think it's the courthouse. It does not end at the courthouse. That's symbolic. The march keeps going and going. Do you swear to keep walking this march with me? That is an offer and acceptance. I'm counting that as a legally binding contract to all of you. So I'm going to finish with this. So we started with Pandora's box. I'm going to end with Pandora's box. So there's several different versions of the story, just like there are with any of these legends and historic artifacts. But in some of the most solidly translated versions of Pandora's box, there's still something left in the box. Anybody know what it is? Hope. Hope. There's still hope left in the box. All the misery and despair are out there, but Zeus left hope in the box because he knew they'd need it. Same story with Adam and Eve. So to this younger generation, to the next generation, I look at you, I pray for you, I fight with you, and I say, you are our hope. Thank you.